Welcome back, everybody. This is the Bluechip Breakdown, and we are your host, Bull and P. And this is kind of random, but y'all know after every Saturday, we always do like our post-game thoughts and grades, all that good stuff. So we don't typically do it live, but we just figured, you know what, why not? Let's just try to share this with everybody. So just very, very random. But we are just gonna kind of go through, recap how this game went. I want to give grades for the offensive staff, the staff on defense, and then Coach Heupel. And all of that is just going to be really predicated off of more of the scheme, more of the play calling, not so much off of the execution. I know sometimes people think, oh, well, they didn't necessarily play well, but we're looking at it like from a different perspective. So keep that in mind. And then, obviously, we will be taking a look at each individual position group's grades as well. Y'all do us a very big favor. Please make sure to take that quick second, like this video, and also make sure that you are indeed subscribed. There's a lot of people that watch us on a consistent basis that aren't subscribed. So up under this video, like kind of to the left, you'll see a button that says either subscribe or subscribed. If it does not have the D at the end, you are not subscribed. So do us a very big favor and make sure to do those things once you come in. All right, so first and foremost, P, I want to talk about the offensive staff, right? So obviously, Tennessee wins this game. It was a really big win. 24-17. I mean, anytime that we can beat Bama, it's huge. This is the first time that we beat them in Neyland back-to-back times in like forever. So obviously, we are kind of taking those strides. We know the Heupel has really changed this entire team, just from top to bottom. But the offense kind of came into this game sputtering, all that good stuff. There's been a whole lot of talk about, well, we need to kind of open things up. The question has been, have teams figured out how to stop this offense? I wouldn't say it's necessarily like the scheme of the offense. It was more with the play calling. But for me personally, going back to that Florida game, we started to open things up. I mean, if you look at us versus Arkansas, versus Oklahoma, really even NC State, we weren't really opening things up as much as we did versus Florida. And then, we kind of started to see, well, look, people are getting open. We've got some opportunities. We weren't quite hitting them. I felt like last night versus Bama, pretty much same thing, right? Still missing some opportunities, but all in all, man, like we really opened it up. So we talked a lot about that quick game because Tennessee, it's a run pass option, and then it's like it's a quick screen, right? So we said, look, we need to try to implement more stuff down the field within that quick game, some hitches, some slants, some outs. What I noticed last night was that off of the RPO, we've got one side that's doing that quick screen, and then the other side is doing like a backside slant, hitch, out, things like that. So I love just that little bit of a wrinkle. Obviously, man, with the running game, my only knock, P, is going to be that we didn't stick to the run enough. We came into this game knowing, hey, Tennessee can run the football on Alabama's defense. And what I think we only ran the ball maybe 14 times in the first half, and we passed it 15 times. Tennessee probably wants to be closer to like 60% run, 40% pass. So we got off on that. And, the offense was stagnant from that perspective. So that would be my only knock. But then come back in the second half, I think we ran the football like 28 times, and we only threw it 13. So really just being able to, lean on DSAP, lean on that running game helped us out a lot to kind of get the offense back going. But, saying all that just to say I love the route combinations that I saw. I love that we were able to, run some inside zone, outside zone. It was plays, P, where, we're pulling guys. We'd run to that side. Sometimes we'd run away from it with the exact same look. So just from, top to bottom, off of the scheme, off of the play calling, I really liked it. Okay. I would say I would give the offensive staff an A-. But what are your thoughts with the offensive staff?
Yeah, I agree. Everything you say, you pretty much said it all, man. It seems like we've actually adjusted. And to everybody's point, I don't know if it was more we were just saving it for this game or what. And like we saw some stuff last week as well that we actually saw some route combinations, some shorter route combinations. It seems like Nico actually has someone he can check it down to now, which I think we saw in the game. There's a couple plays where, or like the play he got hurt on. He was late seeing Dylan Sampson wide open in the flats, try to get to him late. But I think it's because he's not used to having that check down option there. So I think that's a newer thing that we put into the offense. But I think it's a great adjustment by the staff to add those. Because, you have to have an option. Like, you have to have a fail safe. If nothing's there, you can't skip pocket, dump it out here. So I think that's awesome. We've added that. And like you said, the route combinations. I know we had a key third down. I can't remember exactly when it was, but I know it was Squirrel. I want to say it was Brazel on the right side. And it's like I want to say it was a stack formation. Brazel runs like a corner route, But you can tell he's kind of picking off the corner, and then Squirrel is inside of him, and he runs like a reverse pivot, like slant almost. So like he acts like he's running out, actually turns out, but then actually runs inside. And he was wide open, but the ball was tipped at the line of scrimmage. So like they're actually running routes that are going to work. I think. I mean, I was like you said, I was very impressed with the route concepts. I think these are things that are going to work and going to be open. And you know, it helped Weber to protect better. I mean, we just played better all around, I think. But I think it starts with kind of the scheme and putting our team in a position to be successful. And I know that's what you did too, as far as pulling. You know, we pull the guard and tackle to the right, but we run to the left. I think actually the first big run we had of the game when Dylan Sampson fumbled, I think it was that same action, and that just goes to show like teams, they feel like they have us figured out, and so. Great job by our staff understanding, hey, these are the keys that these guys are using just to get downhill quick on us. And I mean, when you go watch the film, if you guys can rewatch the TV copy or whatever, go watch like third, fourth play of the game. Dylan Sampson breaks for like 20, 30 yards. You're going to see like all the linebackers on Alabama just take off, trying to go beat the pool around the edge, but then Sampson actually gets it going the other way. So things like that, man. I think the staff did a great job with the game plan offensively. And I mean, I'd probably give them an A-. I'll probably give A- as well because, like you said, we kind of got away from the run early. I think a lot of that had to do with what Bama was presenting us because it did seem like there was a lot of one-on-one opportunities. So that's maybe why we kept trying to pass it. But I'd probably give them an A- as well because we should have stuck with what we do, and that's running football.
Yeah, no, I think that those are excellent points. Now let's talk about defense. So what I noticed, P, in this game, we talked about it all week. We knew that we had to stop Milroe's legs, and we also knew that we had to try to stop all those deep passes. So I came into it thinking, okay, that's cover 4, that's cover 3, that's more off man. But we played so much press man, which is hard to do, right? I just kind of feel like Coach Banks said, hey, listen, I trust these guys, okay, and I'm going to challenge y'all to be able to come up here, play that bump and run, not just with our secondary, but also with the guys up front. We're trusting y'all to be able to maintain pass rush lanes, kind of slow down what Milroe likes to do while still getting pass rush, still getting pressure. And also with our linebackers, man, I think that they stepped up. Again, this is not going to be about the execution. I'm talking about, what Coach Banks did with his scheme. He said, look, we're going to trust y'all too to be able to spy Milroe, to be able to stop these running backs, to kind of, not cover grass and all that type of stuff. And I think that we stepped up in a very, very major way. And obviously, man, I mean, that sort of a game plan, it was perfect because it's pretty much stopped everything that Alabama liked to do. I think we held them to the least amount of points that they've scored all season. So, I mean, top to bottom, man, I can't be upset by any means with what we did on defense. I think that it just looked, P, like we knew exactly what Alabama wanted to do on every single play. Again, the execution wasn't always perfect, but you could just tell that they were ready for this. So I would go with an A+ for the defense, but what do you think about it?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that Coach Banks and his staff have a great plan, and they didn't disappoint. We were able to hold Milroe to what I think he had like 14 yards or something like that on 11 carries, less than 1 yard per carry. I mean, we're kind of talking about, I think when he played Georgia, he went for like 117 on those guys, 7.3 per carry, and we're able to, I think, contain him and be less athletic at the linebacker position doing it. And so I think that speaks a lot to not only the scheme, but like you said, the players understanding and getting in the film room, knowing what to expect. Something I've started to notice, Aaron Carter, whenever he thinks he's got a beat on where the play is going, you'll kind of see him kind of point, he'll point over there. It's going right here, go here. Like, you start to see all the guys start to do that now. And he's pretty much right every time. The only time he was wrong, I think it was on that first drive when everybody thought it was going to be QB run left. And actually, you could tell Brown's been setting that play up for weeks. He's, Milroe gets the snap, starts off to the left, but it's actually like a jet sweep to the right, and they got a pretty big gain on that one. Which was a good call. That's going to happen. But, we're very well prepared. Love the ability from Tim Banks. I think we talked about this maybe in pregame or postgame show yesterday, is Tim Banks has had really good plans, but he hasn't always had the personnel to do it. I think having 2 corners that you can trust to just man up out there, not to worry about those guys, but then having a guy like Boo Carter that can man up. I mean, Boo Carter was phenomenal in coverage. So having those 3 guys that can just man up, you don't have to worry about those guys. I mean, that's so huge. And then you add in having the pass rush that we do, which we did a great job getting to the passer, affecting them. It wasn't always every play, but it's like in timely situations we were getting there. And then the backers, man, I think Caleb Perry played well. I just like the staff. I mean, you saw we ran a lot of, I don't know if that's a 4-3 or if that's a 3-4, because technically technically, like it was 3 linemen and then a Leo. So you count
Yeah.
Leo as a linebacker. So is that a
Excellent point on that.
4-3? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
So
was saying excellent point
yeah.
on that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm not sure, but I mean, we kind of mix it up. We went for 3-man look with it, or we went with the 4-man or 5-man. We kept mixing things up, man. So I think the staff defensively, I think that it's just fun for them because they feel like they have the athletes that they need to do what they want to do, and they can play press man, they can blitz, they can get creative. Caleb Perry showed up as well, so I'm just pleased, man. Overall, I'd probably give them an A. Yeah, I give them an A. I feel like an A+ would have been like 0 points, which I know we're not talking about execution, but there was a time or two when I think Bama had the right play call for what we're in. So I don't know if we're a little predictable. Maybe they kind of had us, but I give them an A. I think they did a great job overall.
Yeah. I think, and obviously we will kind of talk about that here, but I kind of feel like on the few plays that Alabama was able to hit, and we knew that they would hit some, it was more, to me, it was a lack of execution. And, again, we will kind of get to that. But yeah, that's an excellent point too, because I had talked about maybe this staff with Peely being out, maybe they want to try to put some more of these veteran safety players out there and run some more dime instead of running that 4-3. I really didn't think that we would see that 4-3. But I mean, this is chess. And I think that Alabama, knowing that we're a little bit more shorthanded at linebacker, went to that 12 personnel. So Tennessee had to match it with that 4-3 or with that 3-4 hybrid, which it was crazy. Some of those looks were absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to start to kind of, break that down for everybody. But yeah, I mean, I think that they did a really, really nice job. So let's talk about the head man, Coach Heupel. I think obviously for me anyway, offense getting an A- and then defense getting an A+. It all starts at the top with Coach Heupel. It just felt like both units, and we can maybe even talk about special teams again, not talking about the execution. But I think that we had a really nice game plan. It just seemed like everybody got up for this game. Everybody was focused. We were ready. You know what I'm saying? People knew what to do. We had a good game plan to kind of start off. We were able to switch it up, you know what I'm saying, coming out of that second half on really both sides, you know what I mean? But just because, like we just talked about, offense and defense, we had to switch some things up. So I think the Coach Heupel managed the game well. It was a couple of times, though, that I would say maybe we could have gone for it instead of trying to kick that field goal. But you want to try to believe in your team. That might have been the right thing to do. Hindsight's 2020. But really, after that first field goal was missed, I was like, dude, like we got to try to get this fourth down. We can't really trust. But I think that we might have been out of a go for it range. Either way, that's really my only, I guess, knock on Coach Heupel. So I'm going to give him a very solid A. But what are your thoughts with Coach Heupel?
Man, I think for for him, I mean, to me, it's not just the play calling; it's everything with the head coach. I think you look at kind of how this team performed the past couple of weeks, offensively in particular, and then for us to come out the way we did, we had a great game plan, like you said, and we still don't know. Hey, is that Halsey? Is that Heupel? Is it a combination of both? It's probably mostly Heupel, I would say, but I'm sure it's a little bit of a combination of both. He had a great game plan. He had guys open. He had things schemed up. Was able to get Nico involved early, but we just didn't hit or connect on those shots. But then for us to be going to locker room at halftime and for him to kind of re-rally the troops, keep everybody calm, cool, collected. He put up 0 points in the first half, but then to go out and put up 24 in the second half. I think a lot of that comes back on Heupel and his ability to kind of rally his troops, get his team back motivated and ready to go. And so, I mean, I put that on him as well. I think for me, my only negative on Heupel, I didn't love the field goal kick. Like you said, man, hindsight's 2020. It's tough to say he shouldn't kick it because, I mean, he believes in forget the kicker's name, but he believes in him to make those kicks. And I mean, so I get why he did it. Let's go and put some points on the board. But he missed them, so whatever. That's kind of neither here nor there. But for me, it was a couple of plays where he didn't challenge it. When I feel like maybe he could have, and I don't know if that's because he understands how it works and like he knows those plays are being reviewed automatically, so I don't need to challenge it or whatever. But I feel like there's a couple plays like that first down that Milrow got on that 4th and 1 or 4th and inch, whatever it was. I think it was late in the game. I don't think got that first down. Now, I don't know if they had an angle that showed that, but for me, I mean, I never saw him get past the line of scrimmage, so I don't know how he got a first down on that one. Now, I know it was tough to overturn. It was a big pile like that, but there was a couple of plays like that as well where you would like to have seen him kind of go, look and see, hey, what really happened here. So, but other than that, man, I think he did great. So I'd probably give him an A+, honestly. I mean, I think because when you factor in everything outside this play calling, I think Heupel did a great job keeping everybody composed and getting the win on Saturday.
Yeah, no, excellent points. Also, man, we've never done this, but I mean, we need to give the daggone fans an A+ too, because
Yes.
Kneeland, I mean, like 15 penalties or something. Most of those went to Kneeland. Whenever our fan base shows up like that, that is the hardest place, I think, in the whole world to go win a daggone football game at. It is very difficult. So hats off to the fans. Shouts out to all of y'all. And then too, thank you to everyone that is just making sure that people are liking. Thank y'all so much for liking. I know we talked about that to start off. We might bring it up a few more times, but just because it helps us out tremendously, and it just takes you a very, very quick second. Now let's move on right here, and let's talk about our actual team. Okay, I want to start off with the offensive line, and y'all know that with Pro Football Focus, I don't look at the grades. I'm looking at certain things. Right here, I'm going to be looking at the pressures that the offensive line gave up, and the starters are pretty much all right up there at the top. I think it's going to be the top 6. Y'all can see what the running backs and tight ends and all that other type of or all those other groups did as well. But we're just going to be focusing on the offensive line. But P, I think that they stepped up, man. You know, people have said so many things about, oh man, this offensive line sucks. It's never going to get any better. These guys are, you know, they're not physically capable. But obviously, that's just not true. We've got an offensive line full of guys that are physically capable. There was a few things that we had to kind of switch up, I think, within our scheme. Obviously, you know, execution had to get better. Players are kind of in and out, so banged up or tired. And it was just a perfect storm over the past couple of weeks. But I felt like even versus Florida, they started to kind of pick things up. But they looked even better versus a really good front with Alabama. So as y'all is kind of like looking through right here, we can see the Cooper Mays. He had 39, it looks like, opportunities to block versus a pass rush. He only gave up 1 pressure. And then Spraggs, he also had 39 opportunities. He only gave up 2 pressures. Excuse me. Andre Carrick, he had 39 opportunities. He gave up 1 sack, and he also gave up 1 pressure. The sack and the pressure is probably, you know, that's the exact same thing. Then Lance Hurd, okay, this is the guy that everyone's been talking about. 39 opportunities. He gave up 2 pressures, no sacks. John Campbell, he only had 23 opportunities because he was splitting time with Dane Davis, and he gave up 3 pressures, but no sacks. And again, we know that he's kind of playing through some pain, so hats off to him for that. I think that he's looking better. I mean, he didn't look perfect. None of these guys did, but he is kind of picking up just as far as pass pro goes. And then we've also got, okay, not Miles Kitson, but let me come on down to Dane Davis, who's going to be at number 8. He had 15 opportunities. He gave up 1 sack and 2 pressures. So didn't look as clean as he probably could have just as far as pass pro goes. But I think that all in all, we looked pretty solid in pass protection. Again, just talking about the 5 offensive linemen. But with the run blocking, man, I think we did a really nice job of moving bodies, you know, getting up to that second level, walling guys off. And it looks like some of the little stuff that we had talked about, like whenever they, you know, the offensive linemen duck their head and kind of like lunge forward, I didn't see nearly as much of that. So I feel like they're working on their craft and they're getting better. But from top to bottom with the offensive line, P, I'm going to go with a very solid A. But what do you think about it?
I mean, much improved performance from what we've seen the past couple of weeks with these guys, man. I mean, Nico had time to throw. He was standing upright, was able to stand in the pocket, and was even able, some of those scramble plays that he made, whether he threw it or whether he ran and got yards, it was because we did such a good job of blocking and because it was a clean enough pocket for him to step up into and escape from, which he hasn't had those opportunities really the past couple of weeks. So I was very impressed, man. I think Andre Carrick, you know, I know we don't really go by these grades, but for me, I mean, he outside of Cooper, to me, he was the best lineman on the field for us on Saturday. Man, he had a really, really good game, run block, pass block. He looked really good. And I think I remember that sack. So I don't know if you remember, was his sack the one right before the half? Was that his?
I think it was, yeah. So yeah. I think that's the one that they're crediting him for with the sack, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that was really his one rep that I really saw him get beat, I think. I mean, I'm sure it was probably another one or two, but I mean, I think he had a really solid game. Cooper Mays did a great job. He was really controlling the guys that were lined up on the interior. That big 96, he really was working him around all night long, and did a good job kind of pulling out a couple times as well. And I think John Campbell pulled around well a couple times. You saw Lance Hurd doing the same, getting a couple good blocks in the run game as well. And I think Spraggins probably played his best game overall. Now, there's a couple times where he still just seems to kind of miss guys for every reason, like he doesn't quite fit on them thick enough, and they kind of slide under him or slide off him, whatever. But I think overall, this is his best performance as well. So I'm no line, man. You know, I tip my hat on if it's Glenn Ellerby, if it's Heupel, if it's just them putting in more work this week, whatever it was. But for whatever reason, they were much better this week, and I give that group an A as well. I think they had a great week.
Yeah, and then something else that I just kind of like wanted to add to it is that I know versus Florida, we saw a whole lot of like drop 8, only bringing 3. We saw some of that versus Alabama, but we also saw them bring pressure. And we are just kind of focusing on the offensive line, but I think that we picked it up well as a whole unit. So I'll just go ahead and just kind of touch up, briefly on our running backs. I think that D Samp did a good job. He did a really good job. You can see that he didn't give up any pressures. But Bishop, he's identifying who to pick up. He's got to not always go low. He's got to understand, hey, look, I might get my bell wrong on this, but I got to step up and make sure that this guy can't, like make me miss because I'm trying to go low every single time. So that would be my knock with him. I think that the tight ends looked really good as far as pass pro goes as well. But yeah, I mean, things are really looking a whole lot better, and it makes a huge difference. Last point too, just with the offensive line. I know you talked about the sack that we gave up heading into halftime. That was one of the rare instances, and I had forgot to bring this up with the offensive scheme where Nico didn't have any check down options. He has had more check down options. P, I know that you did touch on that, but that was just one. It was a couple of others where Nico had to kind of scramble because there were no check downs. But on that one, yeah, I mean, I would say the Carrick did get beat, but at the same time, if there was some sort of a check down option, then I think that he held it for at least a 3-step drops worth, if that makes sense. So even that one wasn't just absolutely horrible by Andre Carrick. Now let's talk about the grades from our pass rush. Okay, we're gonna be talking about our defensive line. And again, we're not looking at the actual grades. I'm going to be looking more at the pressure numbers. So up at the top, James Pierce, he had 32 pass rush opportunities. They gave him credit for 2 sacks, 1 hit, 6 hurries, and he got 18 pressures. That's outstanding. Okay, so that's more than half of his pass rush opportunities. He's getting pressure. Actually, I think that, look, man, James Pierce probably played his best game last night, not just with the pass rush, where I think he was a lot more disruptive there than he has been all season. But I mean, if you just talk about him as a run stopper, he's done great at that all season. So super proud of him. He also does a really nice job dropping back in the coverage. So excellent job by James Pierce. Dominic Bailey, he had 30 pass rush opportunities. Looks like he got 3 hits, 2 hurries, and he had 19 pressures. So again, just playing absolutely phenomenal. He's another one that we kind of play inside and we also play outside. And he's done a good job versus that run, stopping the run, especially kind of setting those edges, but even kind of playing more like a tackle for a guy I think he's about 300 pounds, P, but he doesn't really get moved, So, I mean, that's great to have a player that's that versatile that can play inside or outside. Joshua Josephs, man, he's just continuing to be he's just a freaking baller. I mean, he is a dog. He had 22 opportunities. He got 4 hurries, and it looks like he got 17 pressures. So, excellent. Bryson Eason, same thing, right? I mean, y'all can look at these numbers. Several players, I think, stepped up. Omar Norman Lott is a guy I definitely have to highlight him. He had 14 pass rush opportunities, and he got 12 pressures. That is ridiculous. That's a guy that playing on the inside, can get after that passer. But, I mean, really, all of our guys did such a nice job. I think that this was a game that, what's his name? The freshman, 53, Hobbs. Hobbs, I think that he kind of took his lumps in this one, right? Because all of our tackles, they got double teamed a lot. They kind of got pushed back some. I think that they held their own, but with him, he probably got moved the most, but he still stepped up. He still made plays. Jackson Moore made plays. Big E, Big O, all those guys. So I love our front from top to bottom. I love what they did. It's hard for me to, there were a couple of times that maybe you say, okay, we could have got more pressure because Miro's standing around, but I would give him a very solid, I'm going to say A, just because we were still able to get pressure in some situations where, I mean, it wasn't really expected. It was on some 3-step drops and the pressure's right there, and they just disrupted several things. So I'm going to go with the solid AP. But what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think they had a great game as well. We went back and watched that 2023 film, and it's a lot of the same guys. There's a few different pieces, but it's a lot of the same guys on both sides of the ball. And, I mean, just the difference in how Big O performed, and Omar Norman, Lott, East, and Elijah Simmons. The guys that were here last year, Dominic Bailey as well, James Pierce. I'm really all those guys. Tyree West. Those guys played so much better today or yesterday than they did last season. I mean, just so much growth from that group, and that's a tribute to Rodney Gardner and tribute to themselves for the work they put in to get so much better. But I think they had a great day, man. You saw Dominic Bailey make a lot of plays. James Pierce continues to be a monster, continues to do it in every facet of the game. Dropped in coverage a couple times, looked good doing that. Still has tendency to kind of miss some open sacks, miss some open plays. But I mean, he's getting held pretty much every play. He's just got to get better at. He's just got to get better at finishing whenever he just comes through clean. Like that's his next step, in my opinion, to really take that next step. Go get those free ones when they give them to you. You know, because they're a lot of teams have that game plan. Just kind of let him run free. We're going to roll out his way and just pretty much make him miss and dump it out. So that's something he's got to get better at. But man, super proud of him. Jackson Moy has had a few big plays. Didn't see a ton from Bryson Easton. I know he got held, and I think he was the one that got held in that first touchdown run that they had. Gets tackled by Proctor and just tackle him, arm around the neck, just falls on him, tackles him. But I mean, overall, man, this group continues to get better, continues to show up week after week after week, and this is as talented as an offensive line group that I think we'll see all season. Obviously we got Georgia coming up, and I think Kentucky's decent up front, but I mean, this is as talented as we'll see. Now, does that mean they're the best? Does that mean they're the most cohesive? Maybe not necessarily, but as far as just mano a mano, man for man. Yeah, what we did against them is very impressive, holding those guys to 75 yards on the ground, something like that, and
unbelievable.
Putting some pressure, and like we talked about, man, only letting them convert 3 third downs the entire game. Oh, and by the way, 0 of those were in the second half. A lot of it had to do with the D line and pressure they're able to get. So, just couldn't be more proud of these guys. Caleb Herring showed up a couple times, got some snaps, looked good.
He looked real good.
He did, man. He looked great out there.
So you know what? It was a time when he was going up. He was one-on-one with Proctor, and man, he just kind of like threw him around. You know what I'm saying? And I think that they kind of blew that play dead. But if they hadn't, Caleb Herring would have had a sack on that play, like off the snap. So he's definitely stepping up. I mean, they're really, really deep, and I think that that's an excellent point. That if you look at this front, really the defense as a whole, as a unit, they can play better linebackers in secondary because the front, I mean, they're getting after the passer and they're taking up all those gaps. You know what I'm saying? So I think that they play well. But what's your grade for
them? I'll give them a daggum A. Yeah, I give them A. If they had a few more sacks, probably A+. But I give them A.
Yeah. Okay. Love that. So now let's take a look at our skill players. And of course, man, we're going to be starting off with Nico. Let me pull this back up. All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to be starting off with Nico up at the top. And he went 14 of 27 for 194, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Of course, Gaston Moore does come in and he throws that one. I mean, I don't know why. I understand why he threw it because that guy did flash open. But the way that he threw it, like, dude, this is not, this is not a daggum video game. Like, you're running off to the side, you're off your back foot, falling to the right, and you throw it up for grabs. Are you kidding me? So I know that he understands to not do that. But, I think that it did kind of help Nico in a very crazy way because Nico didn't start this game off at his best. Did miss a couple of throws. I think that maybe 1 or 2 drops. He's just been kind of playing a little bit stiff, kind of rigid. But after that, right, like after he kind of went down and then Gaston comes in, throws that pick, then Nico comes back and the crowd is kind of chanting his name. He opened things up. That's why I think that some of these guys just operate better with some positive words instead of always trying to beat them down. That doesn't always work. But so, he comes out, with that next drive, he looks really good up into that pick. That was I don't know, maybe he was trying to throw that out of bounds because Brew was covered up in the back of the end zone. So I don't know, but he does, he operated pretty decent. He's got to continue to work on reading the entire field of knowing who's going to be open pre-snap and then seeing how things unfold post-snap, because there were several times that the underneath stuff was there. All the checkdowns, like running backs coming out of the backfield, that's something I think moving forward is going to be huge for us because that is so open, especially, if we've got 2 guys on that side running vertical, there's nobody there. Like the corner, the safety, whoever linebacker, they're all carrying that 15, 20 yards down the field. The running back comes out to that side, you can dump it off to him for 10, 15 yards every single time. And Nico hasn't quite gotten there just yet. So I think he's got a very, very long way to go. But you love his toughness. You love his grittiness. Just as far as the rushing numbers, he had 9 carries for 44 yards. I think that he used his legs well. It was times like what he kind of touched on where there were no checkdowns. Everyone was covered deep down the field. He just uses his legs, runs. It looked like he ran harder. He ran tougher, wasn't as timid with really any of his operations in that second half. So I'm proud of him. I would say that from top to bottom, I would give him about a solid B. Obviously 4 or 5 or so very deep balls that were missed. not all on Nico. Some of it was, wide receivers got to make catches, but I think that Nico is getting there. The light is kind of starting to brighten more and more for him. And I think that at this point, coming out of this bye, hopefully he can kind of maintain or even get better, before we get to like the back half of this season. But if Nico can play just being confident, being comfortable, then it's going to be hard for anybody to beat this team. So I'm going to go with the B. But P, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think a B is probably pretty accurate. I think he obviously had a rough start to the game, missed some open throws, and that's going to happen sometimes. But you can't keep missing guys. I know he missed Brew on a seam route late as well. So I mean, he's had a few crucial misses that you love to hit, but I think overall you see him take steps. I mean, I've seen him take steps every week, especially maybe going back to really the Arkansas game. I think that was the first game where he was really put kind of under the microscope, and people said, "Hey, what's going on here?" And there's been criticism, and we've had our fair share of it as well for him. But I think each week you look at the Florida game and then you look at the Bama game. I've seen him do things better from the previous week. I think some he did better against Alabama. Like he made quicker decisions. I think he kind of looked, it's there, it's not, and I'm throwing it, I'm going to take off. Like, I mean, that's pretty much how it should be, man. I think he's starting to figure it out, and he's playing with more confidence, is throwing it up, letting guys go make plays. And he didn't really put the ball in harm's way outside of that pick, which, like you said, maybe he's trying to throw it out of the back of the end zone, maybe, or something. Or I don't know. I just think if he was trying to throw it away, he could have thrown it a lot quicker than it's like he revved back to really, like, you know what I mean? Like, just go ahead and dump it out of bounds, dude. But I mean, other than that, man, I think he played a really good game outside of the misses he had as well early. And the ability to bounce back, the mental fortitude it took for him, came out, has that gunslinger mentality, kept on slinging it, made some crucial throws, crucial clutch throws around the money. So I mean, to me, that's super encouraging. And he's so young, man. Like, just imagine when he really gets comfortable, really gets his feet up under him. I mean, he's going to be the truth. Which, I mean, I think he already is. But yeah, I give him a B. I think he has a solid day.
Yeah. And then, I mean, shoot, if you was just to grade him off for the second half, I mean, outside of that pick, I think that he played pretty much lights out. So, yeah, I think that the sky is the limit for Nico. And, I mean, he's just going to continue to get better and better. And the team will obviously benefit from that. Now, let's talk about our running backs. D-Samp, man, 26 carries for 139, 5.3 yards per carry, 2 tugs. Listen, we already talked about him blocking. Excuse me, he's definitely taken some very big strides there. But, man, he runs so hard. He needs to get, I would say, 20-plus carries every single game. I was happy to see Cam Selden coming. I know that we're not talking about him just yet. But, we need to continue to get some guys some reps so that he can rest whenever he needs to. But so far, man, he might be the best player on this whole team, definitely the best player on our offense. And you just cannot say enough good things about the way that he ran that football. Now, obviously, on that first drive, he does fumble it. But, I mean, listen, we haven't got to the tight ends yet. But, listen, Kitzelman, we don't need for you to be spectating, okay? We don't need for you to be jumping up and down and standing around and stuff. Go block somebody, right? Like, I think that if Kitzelman would have helped us block, then that fumble might not have happened. But either way, that's going to kind of happen sometimes with guys that run as hard as D-Samp does. And then, Bishop comes in. I think that he does a really nice job, too. 5 carries for 36 yards, 7.2 yards per carry. Cam Selden had that 1 carry on what looked like it was, I don't know if that was supposed to be like an inside zone and he missed the hole or he tried to bounce it outside. Either way, it wasn't blocked particularly well. I wish that he could have gotten some more touches. But, pretty much outside of Cam Selden because he doesn't really count. I will say this too, Pete, real quick. I think that he looked good pass blocking. You know what I mean? Like he looks very comfortable, very confident doing that. Mm-hmm. So we've got to let him play more. But from top to bottom, like we kind of touched on with Bishop, he's got to do a little bit better with the pass protection. But just in running, I mean, I think that they did great. I'm going to give them an A. Actually, I think I might. Yeah, I'm going to stick with an A because the pass pro wasn't perfect, but it also wasn't horrible. It just wasn't as clean as it could have been with Bishop, and he would be the only one that I don't think did as good as he could have. But outside of that, very solid. Pete, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it, man. Samson continues to do what he does, man. He runs the ball hard, fighting for extra yardage. And same with Deshaun Bishop too. Both those guys run hard and have pretty similar running styles. My only thing I'll say, I guess, negatively about these guys, I mean, obviously the fumble was a big deal. I think it was the first fumble I want to say that we've had from a running back. I want to say something crazy like 2 or 3 years. Like it's been a long time since running backs fumbled the ball. So you hate to see that, but I get how it happened. He's fighting for yards, trying to make a play. It's gonna happen. And plus, like you said, Kitzelman, I don't know what like I said, I would love to get Kitzelman's perspective on that play and what in the world was going on to cause him to stop mid-play. Like, I have no idea what he was thinking. I would love to hear his explanation of that. But, outside the fumble, I thought there was a couple of holes that we did miss, and I think Sampson included. I think a couple of holes that, to me, looking at it on film, it looked like there was a hole there. Now, I know that the plays are designed to go certain ways, but I think sometimes as a back, you've got to just kind of make the right cut and go make your blockers right even when they're wrong. So, but other than that, man, I think they played really well. I'd probably give these guys, and I think pass pro was very solid as well. Like you said, across the board, I think everybody looked pretty good picking up blitzes, and sometimes had to pick up some big old linemen too. So it was a great job by those guys. I give them a B, and the only reason I give them a B is because I think a fumble, to me, that's going to drop you a whole letter grade right there. So I'll give him a solid B, just based off that fumble alone, really.
I like that. Yeah, I think I was kind of thinking that too, but I stuck with the A because of the way that, like, this team, like, they really carried this team in the second half. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that they made several big plays. And then two, y'all leave y'all's grades and y'all's thoughts down in the chat. So let's talk about the wide receivers and the tight ends. Number one, Brew. I knew he was going to have a really big day. Very proud of him. 6 catches for 80 yards, 13.3 yards per catch, no touchdown. He would have had one if he would have made that catch, on that slant that hit him right in his daggum hands. But it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay because we won, but we all know moving forward, we're going to have to start to reel those in on a much more consistent basis. But he always plays well. He's always kind of like the safety blanket for Nico, and he always does a really good job of blocking on the outside. Dante Thornton, man, 3 catches for 70 yards. That one bomb that Nico threw to him, he's kind of turned into another one of the players that Nico really likes. He throws the football to him in some critical moments. And Dante Thornton, man, he stepped up to the daggum plate. And I love to see that because coming out of last year, my biggest question was, are the lights too bright for him? Now he's somebody that steps up when the lights are the brightest. So beautiful work. He's another one that I think that they might have called a holding on him one time. It was either him or his Brazel, or it was both. Either way, some of those holding calls that we got on some really nice runs, that was BS, and all of us know that. But yeah, Dante, he played really, really well. Brazel, I think that he played well. 2 catches, 27 yards, 1 touchdown. That one touchdown that he did catch right there at the end. First off, beautiful pass from Nico P. Like you said, throwing the ball with some touch, that's confidence. And then, Brazel's a guy that you can throw it up to him, whether you're throwing it up high or you're, just throwing it up, period, because he tracks the football well. If you go back and watch that, he's watching the ball all the way into his hands. So beautiful job there. Like we talked about, really good job blocking. Outside of those two, I think the Squirrel really could have stepped up. Now, we know that he's playing through that AC deal. There's a whole bunch of pain there. And it's probably more on the staff to put in someone else, because I think that it's hindering him. He's missing some passes, like that one that Nico threw all the way down the field. It hit him almost like right in his face, and he dropped it. I don't think that he came back. So I'm not going to be too hard on him, but we need for guys to be out there that can make the plays. I think that Chaz Nimrod, he was open. It was a couple times that he was open, but somebody else was even more open that Nico decided to throw the football to. So he's doing a pretty good job from that perspective. Also saw him doing a great job blocking on the outside. So from top to bottom, I'm going to give the wide receivers a B+, just because it was a couple of times that I think that maybe I wouldn't say cut off their routes, but, we kind of talked about this, Pete, that they maybe could have kept running, and some of those deeper passes would have been called. And then we also had too many drops for my taste. But what do you think about the wide receivers, Pete?
Yeah, I think a B+, probably B+ is fair. I think, first of all, they do a great job blocking them across the board. They all do a great job blocking. And that's, that's just a mentality thing, man. I think Kelsey Pope instills that in these guys, and as well as Coach Heupel. And then, I think Brew being the leader of that room, I think he really instills it in these guys too. And hopefully this is something we can continue to pass down. I think it goes all the way back to, even before Jawan Jennings. This has been a physical room every single year. And, this year's no exception. So great job blocking. I think they ran some pretty good routes overall. Guys were getting open. Like you said, we did have a couple of drops. I think Brazel had one. It was kind of a tough catch. DB was kind of right there on his back. It's like an out route I think he ran, and could have caught it, but didn't. I think it was a key third down too. And Brew obviously dropped that one in the end zone. Squirrel trying to go catch one hand on I think it was like a slant route. Slant route. Remember that one? Yeah. So a couple of those deals happened. And then Brazel, something that we heard Jason Swain talking about when Heupel first got here, and we kept missing the deep shots. And, Swain was the first one really pointed out, he's like, the reason we're missing these deep shots is because the receivers they're pretty much getting past DB and they're looking back for the ball. And something you typically see our guys do at a high level is like Squirrel, for example. Just imagine Squirrel going for a deep ball. You see him like head down, he's running like 30 yards, and then he'll finally look. And, we just work on the timing to where that ball is perfectly thrown. But it just helps the time, helps the quarterback be able to throw it out there, and we know the speed he's running and all that stuff. Brazel needs to work on that. He's kind of getting to 10 yards or so, and he's already looking back, and that's going to slow him down. That's why a couple of those throws to him were just, maybe a step or two too far in front of him, because he's not quite keeping his head down running. But I think that will come as we get going. But overall, man, really, really proud of this group today. Saw a little bit of Mike Matthews a couple times on film. I couldn't tell if that was him or not, but I was kind of surprised he wasn't being very physical. He was getting out physical. I know it was one play I saw him. He was on the ground trying to run like a little seam route and gets jammed up and gets put on the ground. And I think on the pick got some more through. Couldn't really see him. He's at top of the screen, but he's like when you can finally see him, he's like out of bounds. So I don't know if he got driven out of bounds, whatever, or what, but. He didn't have his best performance, and you can kind of see why maybe he's not quite getting the playing time that people think he deserves. So, want to see him continue to improve. But overall, man, I give this group a solid B+ for that performance.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about tight ends. We already talked about it, like with the blocking and stuff, at least with the pass blocking. I think that they did a nice job. And, I got to see Ethan Davis, man, on some of those run blocks. Dude, our tight ends were doing a phenomenal job, but especially Ethan Davis. It was one run with D. Samp. I want to say it was D. Samp, but, man, the hole opened up like wide open. It was probably like, 7 to 8 feet wide, but it was off of Ethan Davis's block. So I was happy to see him being physical. Man, Miles Kitselman, outside of that, I think that, that one first drive where he's standing around not blocking anybody, after that, he came back and he was pretty much lights out blocking. Obviously, Holden stays, exact same thing. Once we got to the second half, ran more of that 12 personnel. The tight ends just did an incredible job. Now, y'all can see that they didn't do a whole lot as far as catching the football just because Nico didn't throw it to them that often. I think that whenever they had their opportunities, they were getting open. You can see the Ethan Davis, 2 catches for 12 yards. Holden stays, 1 catch for 5 yards, but there's a whole lot of that check down stuff where they will be there. And I think that moving forward, Nico will start to see them, and that could be a much bigger part of our game. But from top to bottom, I would give them a very solid A. I think that they played very, very well for the most part. What do you think about it, P?
Yeah, I agree. Same thing, A, man. I started to touch on them when we were talking about the O-line, but I'm glad we came to them later. I think they did a really good job blocking pass pro when they had to, and as one run game, they were really, really solid all night long. And I think they were open a lot too. That is not necessarily Nico's first read a lot of times, but I think they were open and they caught the passes that they had the opportunity to catch. So yeah, man, I think across the board, yeah, Ethan Davis was physical, Holden stays, Miles Kitselman. They did a really, really good job, and you can just kind of see when you look at how the O-line played as well as the tight ends, you can just see how when all these guys function the way they're capable of, just how much better it works. Because I saw these tight ends doing things that they just weren't doing against Arkansas. They just weren't doing those things. And you can see when you play better competition, as long as you execute, you have better results. So yeah, I give this group a solid A as well.
Okay, love it. Yeah, and then too, obviously, man, we saw the that holding call down there in the red zone. Who was that? Was that Kitselman or not Kitselman? Was that Ethan Davis or was that Holden Stays?
When they threw it to him?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was Holden Stays.
It was Holden Stays. Okay, yeah. So obviously, man, there's a whole lot of wrinkles that we could utilize these tight ends with, and like I said, I think that time is coming. Excuse me. All right, so let's talk about our skill players on defense. I want to start off with our linebackers, man, because I think that they really did step up in a very major way. I'm so proud of those guys. I was worried about them because without Kenan Pili, we said, okay, Arion Carter, he's played well, but he's also, he's kind of playing like he's a redshirt freshman. You know what I'm saying? Or playing like a sophomore. Same thing with Jeremiah Thielander. You know what I mean? Said, okay, he's kind of been a step too slow, but both of those guys really stepped up. I think that Caleb Perry came in that 4-3. He looked really good. Jalen Smith. Now, it wasn't perfect, but you could tell that the effort was there, that the execution was there. I think that they did a good job of finding the correct run fits. Of not always, it wasn't always perfect again, but for the most part, we weren't like overrunning plays. We were just fundamentally sound. Sometimes we were kind of covering grass in our zones. There's still room for them to get better. But I'm very, very proud of how they stepped up, man. Like, as soon as their numbers were called. They stepped up, and you almost didn't necessarily notice that Keenan Pili wasn't playing. So hats off to them. Obviously, it's not just on them. The entire team has to play well for that to happen. But I love what I saw. Again, for the most part, I think that they took some pretty big strides. I'm going to go with a solid A minus for the linebackers. P. What do you have for them?
Man, I think they had a great game as well. This might have been the best game all year, at least in conference. I mean, you saw everybody take steps, man. I saw Caleb Perry take a lot of steps today or in this game. I mean, he was getting to the ball, flying around, was more physical. I think that overall our run fits were getting much better. We weren't just like overrunning plays, just like we do sometimes, or just fitting it wrong. It just seemed like we were just so much more confident and kind of knew what to do and just knew what to expect from these guys. I think Jalen Smith played pretty well as well. And I mean, to me, honestly, obviously excluding Arion Carter, I think he's one or two steps above the rest. But the other three guys, they're almost kind of all pretty similar. I mean, they played pretty similar. Like, there wasn't really a drop off once he got past Arion Carter. So I mean, but Arion Carter, by gosh, I mean, he's at a different level. I mean, he's getting there fast. He's seeing it. I mean, and I say this all the time, but it's almost like he's playing a video game. You know what I mean? Whenever your user on the linebacker, he's like he's gone. You know what I mean? He's getting there right now. So I mean, he's just, and then whenever it's a pass play, I mean, he does a beautiful job of knowing exactly what he needs to do. You know what I mean? Like, he knows, hey, got the back, I'm on him. Or, hey, okay, boom, eyes here, watch this tight end come in. Like, he knows exactly what to do a lot of times. So, man, love what Coach Inge is doing. Love what that group did. I give this group a solid A. I think had a really good game overall.
Yeah, you know what? It's funny because I didn't actually bring that up, but the eye discipline was absolutely phenomenal. I mean, they were so locked in, dude. Every single one of them. So I just very, very proud of what they did out there. Okay, so let's now talk about our safeties. All right, so number one, Will Brooks. Y'all see that he led the team in tackles with 8. He had a tackle for loss, obviously the game-winning pick. But he's our best safety, P. I mean, it's crazy that's how things have turned out. But he does an incredible job in pass coverage, freaking run support, because, it was times where the linebackers weren't necessarily 100% on point, but he was able to clean that stuff up, man. And I'm so proud of him, too. So, yeah, I mean, absolutely excellent job by him. I like what I saw from Turntime. He looked a lot better in coverage. His angles looked way better. He's coming up. He's sticking folks. He's making tackles. We could talk about Christian Charles. He's looking really good, dude. I mean, we've got 4 very good safeties, I think. But yeah, Christian Charles coverage looked great. He's another one. Actually, it was a time when he was playing inside of the box. He looked like a freaking linebacker. It was him, it was AC, and it was JT. Wow. And they're all kind of like pointing around and stuff. And Christian Charles comes down. He's doing the exact same thing. Like, how they hold their hand up. Yeah. Like, oh, boy. And then, like, he just gets it to his run fit. Like, they're shrugging off blocks. So super proud of him. Kobe Thomas, we all know what he does. I think he might have had like a tackle for loss or something like that. But he's another one, just physical. You know what I'm saying? He's been really nice in coverage. I would give that group, P, based off what they did. I mean, they might have played. I don't know if I would say that they were the best position group, but they were close to it. I'm going to give them a very solid A. But let me know if you saw something different, man. What's your grade for the safeties?
Yeah, I felt the same way, man. Will Brooks continues to be a daggum stud back there. I mean, he's really good in coverage. He's good tackler. He's not like a super physical thumper, but he's going to get you down. It's not going to be any yards after contact. He just does his daggum job at a high level. I mean, pretty much everything that Coach Banks and everybody kept saying, people reporters kept asking him, hey, come on, how's Will Brooks got starting? And they just kept telling him he just does everything right. He just does it right every time. And that's pretty much who he's been all year for us. I'm definitely our most reliable guy back there. I think Turntime, I mean, heck, I saw him in coverage, actually showing some quick twitch muscle fibers and freaking breaking on some routes and made some good tackles open field. And then of course, we love what Christian Charles is doing. Yeah, we love what he's doing out there. He looks good out there. And then the other guy, Jacoby Thomas. Yeah, I mean, he's a physical guy, plays hard. I will say there was one play, I think it was in the fourth quarter, because I believe we were up. And Bama was at about the plus like 30 or 40 yard line. And it looked like it was cover 4. And Bama ran, I think somebody ran vertical. I want to say it was the slot guy ran vertical, and Jacoby Thomas should have been on him, but he was sitting flat footed. And if Milroe had seen it, I mean, that probably was a touchdown, probably. But other than that, I didn't see this guys really give up anything. So, tough to knock him too much for that one play. But I think overall, yeah, I give these guys a solid A, maybe A minus for their performance.
All right, cool. So now let's talk about the star position. Boo Carter, I think he played very, very well. And he's a guy, really, there's several of these young players. And I mean, whether it's a freshman young or it's a sophomore, or just a guy that hasn't played as much, you're seeing guys grow. I feel like we've kind of, settled into playing SEC ball. And Boo Carter's one of those guys that he just looks like he belongs out there. He looks really good in coverage. Now, there was one time that I'm going to talk about with him and really all of our corner types of bodies where we let the wide receiver get to the inside of us. I think more of that was based off of the scheme that we was in versus what Alabama ran, and then really good execution by Alabama. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap to the offense for having a good play and for executing well. But outside of that, I think that he came up, he tackled well. It was one time too on what was that? It was almost like a wide receiver screen, like a running back screen or something, more like to the outside, where I think that Boo could have maintained outside leverage just a taste more. He kind of came back to the inside. The play broke for a first down, but Boo Carter still made the tackle. So he's playing with a ton of effort. He's hitting people. He's hitting them hard. He's hitting them flush. He's a very sure tackler. And then I love that play versus number one. I think Kendrick Law or, whatever, where he's kind of chirping at him, and then he gets that 15-yard penalty for his team. He's got to be careful with that moving forward. But it worked out for us. This is what we talked about. Whenever you're living right, you know what I'm saying? Like whenever you're trying to help your team out and you're giving your all, I think the things just, kind of tend to bounce in your favor. But yeah, Boo Carter played very well. And then Christian Harrison, he had one really good play that I can think of where it was another one, I think like a dump off to the run back coming out of the backfield. I think it was a tight end and like a wide receiver blocking him. But man, he sets a beautiful edge and forced the play back to the inside. I want to say Jeremiah Thielander, he was a little slow kind of getting over there. But if it wasn't for Christian Harrison setting that strong edge, that play might have scored. So little things like that don't show up inside of your stat sheet. But I think that both of those guys are playing at a really high level. Again, they both look good in coverage. They're physical. Everything that you would want at that position, we have two of them. So that's beautiful. I'm going to go with an A for that group, P.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really impressed with that group, man. They're so good in coverage. They're so good with sticking with their man. They change direction very well. And then they're both very physical. They're both aggressive. They're both physical, make plays, play with good instincts, especially Boo Carter. I mean, for him to be a true freshman, the way he's playing right now, I know you point out like 2 mistakes he had. That was probably his only 2 mistakes all night long. Yep. I mean, he is an absolute guy. I mean, if I'm just grading him alone, it's A+. I don't give a dang about 2 mistakes. I mean, just because the fact that he's a true freshman and he's doing what he's doing is very, very, very impressive. I mean, he is a lockdown guy. And we saw that in the spring game. I said, man, Boo Carter is a little bit different with how twitchy he is when he can really mirror guys like next level stuff. I mean, he takes away the middle of the field a lot of times. And then but if he's like a zone player, he's taking away the daggone flats or short game. Like wherever he's at, you don't have to worry about it. I mean, you really don't have to worry about it. I mean, he's elite player. And Christian Harrison didn't play as much, didn't seem like, but I mean, he flashed as well, and he has that. Maybe not quite the same twitch as a Boo, but I mean, he's really good in coverage as well. Like, I mean, he can stick with his guys well. So really like that group, man. I'm gonna give those guys daggone A+, man. I think those guys just with what they're asked to do and all the space they're working with, I like what they're doing, man. I'm giving them A+.
I like it. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about Tennessee's cornerbacks. Obviously, you see right there, Jamal McCoy was the second leading tackler for our Vols. And sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's not. Typically, if a cornerback is that high in tackles, it means that the ball's been thrown on them and they're making catches a lot. But that really wasn't the case with J-Mac. He's a guy that, I mean, dude, we all know. I mean, shutdown guy, right? I mean, he was just absolutely unbelievable. That interception whenever they're trying to force the football to Ryan Williams. It's stuff like that. And it's not just making the catch, but understanding, hey, the offense isn't doing much. I might be 7 or 8 yards deep into the end zone. I got to try to score. Like, I got to try to get the ball past the 25 or 20, whatever, to put them to put this team in a much better position to win. So I love that. Now, there was a couple of times that I did see with him. I also saw it with Ricky Gibson that they, like we talked about with Boo, let guys get the inside on them, right? Like on some slants, especially with Ryan Williams. And he's got a nasty move off of the line of scrimmage where he takes his inside foot, puts it outside, and he's able to kind of like explode off of that and go back to the inside. But it got Ricky Gibson, and it also got J-Mac. But either way, I think that he played great. I think both of our corners played very well. Yeah, Ricky Gibson did give up a catch in the end zone, but he was in great position. Just has to make a play on that football. Again, man, great offense or perfect offense is going to be perfect defense 100% of the time. That's just how things go. So his time's coming. I think we've got two really true shutdown cornerbacks. And then with six, once he came in, you don't really see that much of a drop off. The only difference with him is that he's not as willing to come up to the line of scrimmage. He plays a little bit more off. But hey, look, like whatever gets stuff done, that's cool. But that's more of why we saw some of those hitches and things like that being given up on him. But he's another really, really good one. I thought that they played well. They were physical. It's not just about making the tackles, but also like whenever you get a chance to kind of slam somebody or put some paint on somebody, we saw them doing that. That's huge to have cornerbacks that can play that way. So I love what I saw from them. I'm going to go with a very solid A for them as well. P, what do you think?
I agree, man. I really like that group. Obviously, Jamar McCoy, the best corner in the country, probably not named Travis Hunter right now. I mean, he's the real deal. I mean, the play made in the end zone on that pick. I know everybody's seen the still shot of him going up at his, getting the ball at his highest point. It's rare to ever see a player jump that high in an actual game. You know what I mean? Like he's probably only like 36 inches off the ground or so, which is a good vertical. But players typically, like if you look at the receiver Ryan Williams in that play, like that's typically about how high you're actually jumping in a game. Like you're getting maybe like a little bit off the ground. But for him to have that level of spring and bounce to get that high, like he's just a freaky athlete, man. And he's physical, he's strong, has great instincts. Like you'll see him a lot of times where he's kind of playing zone and he's kind of squeezing inside, but then all of a sudden out of the back of his head, he'll just see something kind of releasing behind him and he'll speed turn into it, and now all of a sudden it's covered up. Like he is fun to watch. He's probably the one guy, maybe Will Brooks and maybe you can throw Blue Carter as well in there, where even when the play goes away, like their guy is like pretty much never open. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't matter. Like they're just never open. I think you look at Rick Gibson. I mean, I don't know. It's tough to tell because the play goes away from him, but it's a couple times where his guy does break open, not necessarily deep, but maybe like on a dig or something.
So you're talking more about zone. Yeah, so I noticed that too, right?
Yeah.
Like when Tennessee's playing zone, and I mean we could say that about everybody, but I think that what Tennessee does is when they play certain zones, like you said, they'll kind of squeeze it backside. But I've seen the same thing. I've seen it with literally everybody, where we're kind of condensing that field. But
yeah. Well, I saw it in man too. I think because sometimes Ricky will come over and he'll be playing like the slot, like the nickel, like he'll be playing the slot guy. And I mean, he definitely man turned, and then the guy gave him a move, but the ball, I guess, maybe already come out. But I don't think Ricky Gibson saw that. So to me, I'm saying, well, why is this guy already coming open? You didn't know it was thrown, but maybe he did know. I don't know, because it seems like every time I see it, the ball maybe already has been thrown. But I mean, but overall, man, like when the ball's thrown his way, he's right there, great position, physical, makes plays. And then, like you said, 6, McMurray. I mean, I think he fits right in with those guys. He's not necessarily as physically gifted as those other two, but I think he understands that. That's why you see him playing a little bit further off. But coming up, being physical, slamming that guy the way he did. I mean, I really like those 3 corners. Let's see if we can get a 4th guy. Jordan Matthews might that going. But, man, I get that group a solid A as well. I think they played really well overall.
Okay. Yep. So love that. All right. So yeah, I think that it was I think that just all in all, obviously, just a really, really good job from top to bottom by the staff, really good execution. Obviously, that's a huge win. We had to continue to build on that. Just as far as making it to the playoffs, obviously, we had to keep on winning. Georgia looks like the next really big matchup, but for me, really every matchup is going to be big, and that one's like almost larger than life for me, because y'all know I can't stand Georgia. That's the one. I don't care if Tennessee loses every single game. I'm going to be fired up to play up against Georgia every single year. So, but we will see, man. Super, super proud of the strides that we've taken. But that's going to be it for this one, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us, and we apologize if we could not get to your chats. We just kind of wanted to get through this thing and give our thoughts. Again, man, if y'all watching this on the rewatch, just leave your thoughts and grades down in the comments section. But thank y'all. We will see y'all tomorrow. Peace.